So I want to show you this tool that is something that anyone can use to take student learning data from something that looks like this or something that looks like this to something that's more useful and gives us more options for analytics. For this specific data, there's a couple things that might be necessary to understand, and that is that in our school, at least, we give students 4 evaluations. We don't have numbers attached to it, and so students get exceeding, meeting, developing, or emerging. And so what I've done here in the spreadsheet is I've associated emerging with the value of 1, developing with the value of 2, meeting with the value of 3, and exceeding with the value of 4. And so when you look at numbers in this, you might see it goes from 0 to 3. Actually, the total is 4, but the maximum that we can get is 4. So when looking at this data, you can have a look and see that the strongest subject for this class is PSPE, and this is personal, social, and physical education. Yes, and then their lowest one is social studies. So this gives you a very quick bird's eye view of what is this class's strengths when it comes to their academics at school. A little bit more granular detail at the bottom here gives you a bit more information. So you can see here that for social studies, at their strength or their average of 2.7 out of the 4 that they usually get, if you add up all of those values, if you add up all the developings all together, then and all of the meetings and all of the emergings for the specific subject for literacy, then it comes up to this number, 1,128. But then you divide that number by the amount of times that a record was given, which was 397, and that gives you the 2.83. Okay, so you can see here that there's been a lot of ratings over here, and there's been less so ratings at the top here, and so that kind of affects the information that you're getting as well. This also shows you where a lot of your information is coming from. So when we're looking at overall strength of students, the bulk of that information is coming from mathematics, which affects the next page as well. So this is just good things to know. Where are we getting most of our information from, and how does that, what implications does it have for the data? The next page over here is asking a similar question, but it's more to do with individual students. So the question was, in general, how often do specific students get higher evaluations for their assignments? So we're basically looking at what's the student's strengths throughout the class, or who are our strong students, our high flyers, and who are the people who we need to help along a little bit more. And so you can see here that student J has an average evaluation of 3.16. So they're usually getting between meetings, mostly meetings and some exceedings every now and then. Their total rating value was 528, and there was 167 record counts. Okay. An interesting one here is you can see this student H. This person has a fairly high rating. However, their record count is a lot lower. The student might have just joined the class a little bit later than everybody else, and so has a lower record count to their name. But because there's this strength average here, it still shows it's still balanced with everybody else's record. And so this graph just shows us what we can do here. I think if you go into optional metrics, no, it's not showing up. Okay. The next page, it's getting a little bit more detailed. So the question was, which subjects do specific students get their highest evaluation? So now we're going in and we're looking at specific kids. So what you first can do here is click on this drop-down box, and you can deselect all the students and pick the student that you want to look at first. So I'm going to pick the student H, the person who was new in this class, and it automatically shows that, okay, this student gets his or her higher evaluations in science and technology, and their weakest subject is arts, where they get lower evaluations. And this tells me as a teacher that maybe I can tailor a lot of the work for the student in the direction of science and technology. Maybe they're interested in engineering and problem solving. They're not such a visual thinker perhaps, or they're struggling with it and maybe they need a bit of help. Those could be some decisions that we could make from this data. You can also see the rest of their subjects here. So this student H, strong in science, technology, and social studies and literacy. Mathematics, they could use a little bit of help with, and arts is their weakest one. But then you can also see the granular information down at the bottom and how it correlates. So you can see the differences between how many records they received for a specific subject. So math, they received the most records, and for science and technology, they received the least. But in general, they got high evaluations for those 10 records, an average of 3.4, which is pretty good. So that's the information that shows you, so you can just remain balanced in the ideas that you get from this this template. Not everything is set in stone, it's just all within certain context, and this is just a template that's meant to help. All right, and the last page is my favorite page. I'm so proud of it. Introducing, oh, is it gonna work? Oh, fantastic. Nice. So this is using Looker Studio, by the way. Looker Studio is a data analytics tool from Google, which unfortunately it always goes unresponsive for some reason. But I just click wait, and then hopefully it will come back to us soon. It glitches out fairly often. Maybe it's dealing with a lot of data, and so it struggles to process all of it, especially when it's bringing up my amazing Deep Dive-O-Matic, which I created here. And the big question that's guiding it is, which specific learning outcomes are the strongest for specific students? So we're wanting to get really granular here and find like some actual learning outcomes that we want to target for the students. So I know this looks crazy, it looks like a freaky motherboard in a computer or something, but I promise you, you can make it a lot easier and a lot simpler in 3 simple steps, okay? First step is click on student name and choose a student that you want to focus on. I'm going to focus on student I. And you'll see it thinks for a little bit and then it shows you. All right, so what we got here is all of the learning outcomes or subject standards that this student was evaluated on in this data analysis, I guess, timeline. Okay, so here's all the literacy ones, here's all the math ones, here's all the arts, here's all the social studies, etc. Okay, but this still looks quite complicated. So I want to deep dive a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to go to subject and I want to just focus on literacy. So it's going to think for a bit, and now it's going to show me all the literacy outcomes that the student has been evaluated on in this semester or in this reporting season. And also it's heat mapped a little bit here too. So you can see on the right hand side here, it's a lighter blue color, which means that they received a lower evaluation. And if I hover over it, you can see it tells you what the learning outcome is. It says, so this student shows open-minded attitudes when listening to others' points of view, and they received a strength of 2 for this. So this means that perhaps they need to work on this learning outcome a little bit more in the next academic calendar session. And as you go along, you can see the ones that are where he or she is stronger, so distinguishing between fact and opinion and reaching their own conclusions about what represents valid information. They received a strength of 3 for that, so they get meeting usually for that one. So they're pretty strong, can maybe use some improvement anyway because it's a 3 and not 4, but that's okay. Just to make sure that it's correct, you can go down to the bottom and you can scroll and you can see if you're getting all the information. I can see there's a total of 34 entries here, and if you count all of these, most likely you'll get 34. You can even dive, oh god, can't talk today. I'm excited about this awesome thing. You can even dive deeper still by looking for specific rating values. Okay, so if I want to just focus on this student's lowest scores, what do I need to help this student with? And then it goes down even further, and you can see there are 18 entries throughout this reporting cycle, and you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 are there. And you can hover over them and you can see exactly what it is and maybe choose a couple of these to focus on in whatever weeks or whatever things you're doing with that student. So this is my favorite. It really helps us to very quickly find the things that we want to focus on for our students, and it's much more user-friendly or easy to use than looking through a spreadsheet like this or looking through something like this. So I really hope that people find this useful. It's also very important to know how to update this information as well, because obviously this is just one instance of data after a certain amount of months of use, and so we want to be able to update it every couple months so that we can see how students are doing. So yeah, that might be very useful information. I want to show you how to take student learning data from your LMS from looking like this, once you've downloaded it, to looking like this, where you can actually use it to make some decisions about your students' learning. So first step is you actually need to go to your learning management system and download the learning data that you have accumulated over the last couple months. In our learning management system, it looks kind of like this, and we can download this as a CSV file, which we can then upload to Google Drive, and it automatically gets turned into a Google Sheet. And it has fields like the student name, the subject that the students were doing, the subject standards, the specific outcomes that the students were learning, their evaluations, and the date of rating, and a couple others. But what it doesn't have is this rating value, because we as a school have chosen not to associate numbers with evaluations. However, for data analysis purposes, it's really useful to have a numerical value attached to the evaluation so that we can do some calculations. So to do that, I asked AI to help me, and it created a formula which looks at the cell next to it and sees if the word emerging is in there, and if the word emerging is there, it gives it a value of 1. If the word developing is in there, it gives it 2, meeting is 3, exceeding is 4, etc, etc. And then you just drag it all the way down so that it shows on all the cells. So now we have some numerical data that we can analyze. Okay, once we've got this set up, we're going to go into Looker Studio. And Looker Studio is Google's analytics sort of platform. I want to show you today how to use a template that's already been created and just create a copy of that template, but associate the template with new data or a new spreadsheet. Because every couple months as teachers, we want to see how the students are doing, and maybe you want to update that data. So after a few months of learning, you go and you create a copy of the template, you link it to a new spreadsheet with updated data, and then it will show you the updated analytics. So that's the goal here. Alright, so to do that, in Looker Studio, you go to the template that you have. You need to be in the editing mode. So there's this view mode, and then there's this editing mode. And then you're going to go to these 3 dots on the top right, and you're going to say make a copy. Okay, and it's going to ask you for a new data source. So we haven't yet put a new data source in, so we're going to say create a new data source. And Looker Studio is going to ask you, where do you want to get it from? Ours obviously is going to come from Google Sheets. Looker Studio is a little bit of an old man sometimes, and it starts to slow down, and the user interface sometimes freaks out a little bit. So pages become unresponsive. I wonder why this happens every time. But if we give it some time, it will eventually link us to our Google Sheets. There we go. I've linked it to my Google account, and it's looking inside and it's seeing where I'm getting this from. So I want to get this dummy spreadsheet so that we can connect it to our new Learning Data Analytics template. Just give it a moment while it connects. And there you have it. These are all the fields that are going to be in our data. Just one thing quickly, got to make sure that this goes to none, otherwise it will automatically sum up this field. But we want to also create 2 new fields to make this specific template work well. And to do that, you have to go add a field, add calculated field, and I'm going to create a field called total rating. And that field is going to be the sum of the rating values. It's going to check if it can do it. This little green tick box shows up, and then you click save, and now it says calculated field has been saved. I'll go back to all fields, make sure it's there. Yes, total rating is there. Next, I'm going to create another added field, another calculated field, and this one's going to be called strength, and that's going to be total rating. Oops, got an L. Total rating divided by your record count. So how many times was a record actually put in for the student? It's going to say yes, we can do that. Sounds good. Save. And now all of our fields are there, ready to go. This should look pretty much identical to the previous template that was there. So now we can say add to report and copy reports. It will do all the copying. It will take the previous settings from all the graphs and the visuals that were there, and it will try to match those settings to the new spreadsheet. And so now hopefully this new copy is going to look similar, but the data that it is using is different data. It's updated data. And then we can make decisions using those new numbers that show up. Okay, so yay, we were successful. I'm going to change this to dummy data. So that means now this is a new updated version of this template. I hope that you find this useful, and I hope that it will help you to kind of understand the students and what's happening in the class as well. And wish you all the best.